Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to present about cryptographic validation of lightweight block ciphers and hash functions. So, introduction. So, what is lightweight cryptography? So, these are the algorithms specially designed for resource constrained devices like IoT devices. Here in this algorithm, latency and power consumption plays very important role in the design of these algorithms. So here lightweight block ciphers, I'm going to explain different modes of operation and validation tests for lightweight block ciphers. And lightweight hash functions also consist of different modes of operation and validation tests. I'm going to explain in the next slides. So for this presentation, we have generated test vector generation model. We have designed a test vector generation model for different lightweight cryptographic block ciphers and hash functions. So case study for block cipher is taken as a Clefia, and case study for hash function is taken as a Spongent here. So next will be the conclusion. So lightweight cryptographic hash function comes with different block size and key sizes. Actually, different key sizes depicts the security strength. So ISO documented 29192 specified different block ciphers, namely present and Clefia. Present is a 64-bit symmetric block cipher which consists of different versions depending upon the key sizes it uses. So different versions are present 80 and 128. So for Clefia is also symmetric block cipher, but block size is 128-bit. It also consists of different versions depending upon the key sizes it uses, like 128-bit, 192, and 256 bits. So again, the same ISO standard specifies with version 5 specify different hash functions, lightweight cryptographic hash functions, namely photon, spongent, and Lassamenta. So T represent the versions for that particular hash functions. So for this presentation, I'm taking Spongent as a case study here. So it consists of different versions depending upon the message digest it outputs. The lengths are like 80-bit, 128, 160, 224, and 256 bits. So here comes test vector generation for lightweight cryptographic block ciphers. So here standard 18368. It is a standard which gives a guidelines for implementation for cryptographic algorithm and security mechanisms for conformance testing. So this conformance testing assures that implementation is correct irrespective of the platform it is used for. So this standard specifies different modes of operations for block ciphers like ECB mode, CBC, CFV, OFV, and counter mode. Also, it specifies different validation tests like CAT known answer test. CAT known answer test also contain different. Again, it has subdivisions like variable plain text, variable key, S box, and multi-message test, Monte Carlo test. Here, the CAT actually, why we are using this validation test is that it tests a different component of the algorithm design, like it tests for a substitution table and permutation table, like that. So importance of multi-message test is to test the ability of the implementation to process the multi-message blocks, which may require chaining process from one block to the another block. And here comes with the Monte Carlo test. This is an important test which tests the implementation correctness, which cannot be tested by CAT or either MMT. Like flaws in the implementation, like maybe with um, memory leak or bound checking, that will be helpful to test with Monte Carlo. So this is a generic equations of the block Ciphers for used for both encryption and decryption. So this is a generic equation we can use for if the for this applies for um, multi-block inputs. So this is a generic equation. We can follow this procedure for implementing different modes of operation. So for test vector generation model, we have used different files, and namely these are the important files we are generating from the test vector generation model, like request file. Request file acts as an input for the implementation under test, and facts or response file. Actually, facts response are the files generated from the IoT taking the request file as an input, and these facts files are kept as a reference file in the lab, in the testing lab, whereas the response files are the files generated from the vendor side, which can be used which is used for validating purpose. So this is the general flow chart for variable plain text validation test. This is one of the CAT tests. So depending upon the mode selected, so generally depending on the mode, we will have different inputs like taking an example as a ECB mode. ECB mode consists of input like plain text key as an input. If you take as a CBC, CFB, or OFB, it consists of IV key plain text as an input. Whereas a counter mode consists of counter value, key, and a plain text as an input. Depending upon the mode selected, the input values will be fed to the block cipher, which encrypt along with using the key and generate the output cipher text as an output. So this procedure will be continued depending upon the block size. It consists of the count equivalent to the block size. Like suppose if the block cipher selected consists of block length 64 bit, this test consists of 64 test vectors like that. So this procedure will for the next test vector, for variable as a name depicts for variable text, the plain text will be varied for the next test vector. That is the initial plain text will be shifted by 1 bit for the next round of test vector. This is the importance of variable plain text. So here variable plain text will be varied, and rest of the input will be constant for other rest of the test vectors. So variable key CAT test. Here as name depicts, the key is varied and other input for the vector for the block cipher will be kept constant. So depending upon the mode selected, the input will be fed to the block cipher. So yes, block cipher will generate a cipher text. For the next iteration, the key will be shifted by 1. If the mode is selected is counter, so counter will be incremented for the next iteration. So updated key will be fed to the block cipher, and block cipher will generate the cipher text as an output. So here comes the S-box validation test. So importance of S-box validation test is that it demonstrates that all the entries of the S-box are used in processing these test vectors. Actually, here different block ciphers consist of different size of S-box. Suppose if the block cipher is 64-bit, S-box consists of 16 entries. So we have 16 test vectors in the request and response files. And if the block cipher is 128, so S-box consists of 250 entries. So we have taken 256 test vectors. So here comes Monte Carlo. This is an important validation test, and it is also a bit complicated. So it consists of two um, two loops. One is inner loop and outer loop. Inner loop consists of 100 iteration, whereas outer loop consists of 10,000 iterations. So uh, once the here actually once the iteration completes, let's say inner iteration completes, the input to the next outer iteration will be updated as per as this equation. So again, for the next output iteration, the input value for the block shifter will be updated as per as this equation. Right? So totally in this Monte Carlo, we will have 10,000 into 100 test vectors in request and response file. Actually, in Monte Carlo, request file consists of only one set of equation, one set of test vector. In the response file, we will have 10,000 into 100 test vectors. So the successive actually test vector for the successive will depend upon the previous input of the test vectors. So this is a case study for Clefia for this is a command line used for test vector generation model. So here the advantage here is that we can either generate a text vector. From the test vector, we can generate the response files, or we can take the third-party available request files and generate a response file. So we can both either we can generate our own test vectors, and we can also validate the third-party request file and generate response for response files. So for the test vector generation model consists of different folders for request and response files. So under each request file, we will have different folders depending upon the versions, different versions. Like Clefia 128, 192, 132, different folders are kept for different versions. And each version consists of a different modes of operation. Depending upon the modes of operation, if CBC is taken as an example, it consists of a different validation test. This is for the request file generation, and similarly response generation consists of different different file structures. This is so here the CFP mode consists of different subdivisions like CFP1, CFP8, CFP128, depending upon the block size of that cipher. So this is how I have tested for the test vector generation. So I have taken individual modes and again individual test vectors has been tested and verified with the generated response file. Cross verification can be done by feeding the inputs individually. This is a test. Yes. So yeah, this is so 18 ISO document 18367 specify different modes of operation and validation tests for hash functions like short message bit oriented, short message byte oriented, long message bit and byte oriented Monte Carlo test. So depending upon the validation test and modes of operation, message input will be like for short message 10. Depending upon the message sizes will vary depending upon the modes of operation and validation test selected here. So this is a case study has been taken for sponge here. So if the if selected depending upon the version of this sponge selected, we will generate the request file. So it again depends upon which mode and which validation test is considered. So again, once the request file has been generated, response file is generated depending upon the modes of operation validation test for the hash function. So this is a generic block diagram used in the test vector generation model. So block Cipher, we will have request and response files for both. Actually, request file consists of both encryption and decryption part in a single file. So here we have request and response file in a single file. So hash function. This is a generic block diagram used for the hash function. So it consists of header, message length, and the message in the request file, and the response file consists of header, header, length of the message, and message along with the message text. So this is the conclusion. So advantage of test vector generation model is that we can test or generate can be used. So this model can be used or extended for any known or known algorithm for generating the test vector for any known or approved algorithm. And another advantage of this model is that we can have extra test vector apart from the other official available test vectors, which gives extra confidence in validating the cryptographic algorithm or the model, which can be used as a reference test vectors in CST labs. And the accuracy of this tool has been is checked by using some of the available online tools. Thank you. Any questions?